G'day everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. So we are nearing the end of 2023 and I thought it'd be a good idea to squeeze out a little bit more of 2023 AFL content, and in this video today I'm going to be going over every single AFL Guernsey number and choosing the best player. Now, when determining the best player in each Guernsey number, the highest priority is that we want to pick the best current player possible, but we also want to balance it with making sure do they have good career success rather than just only a good season this year, to make it overall a pretty balanced list at every number. So feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you do go on to enjoy. Sit back and relax. Now let's get into it. So everyone, here we are. We're going to be chipping away from number 1 to 50, starting of course with number 1. I will be including honourable mentions for every number, so it gives you people at home just a bit of a rough gauge and sort of sample size of the players that I did consider. So we'll kick it off with number 1, and I've got Steven May from the Melbourne Football Club. A few other close selections with Vlastuin and Chad Warner, but May is definitely one of the best key backs in the competition overall. Very tough one-on-one, and he's been huge for Melbourne the past few years. Moving on to now number 2, going to be going of course with Jordan De Goey. Dylan Grimes is another close one, but De Goey is just one of the most impactful players in the competition, especially in his position. Really had a great 2023 and was big in some huge games for the Pies this year. For number 3 now, I'm going with Caleb Serong. Had a massive breakout season for Fremantle this year, really improved his numbers, and he's shown in the competition that he is an elite inside ball winning midfielder. Got him slightly ahead of 𝐚 and Joey Danaher. Really loved his season. Number 4 now, we've got superstars in this position, but it's got to go to the best player in the competition this year, Marcus Bontempelli. If we're saying overall, it's definitely Dusty without a shadow of a doubt. Toby Green as well, definitely in consideration, but as I say again, these are the best current players we want to select, so Bontempelli takes the chocolates because he was the best player in 2023. Number 5 now, I'm going to be going with Christian Petrarca. The last 2 years he's ranked first overall in score involvements. Very impactful player in his position. He's able to run through the midfield, he's able to be very good overhead, down, forward, and he's able to kick some beautiful goals. Got him ahead of Jeremy Cameron and Dunkley. A few other close honourable mentions there. Number 6, I'm going with one of the best players in the competition in his position, James Sicily. Reads the ball so well, a general back there for the Hawks, and just how he moves with it is very smooth. Loves to take the game on too, and yeah, just a very solid mark as well. Plays with confidence. Got him ahead of the likes of Whitfield and McCluggage. For number 7 now, I'm going to be going with the Essendon smooth moving midfielder of Zach Merritt. Really loved his 2023 season, and a bit of an up and down season for Essendon. The new captain did very well this year and got an All-Australian selection. For number 8 now, I'm going to be going with Andy Brayshaw. What a 2022 season he had. Sort of stagnated, and that was a little bit disappointing comparing to his expectations this year, but still just a very strong two-way running midfielder. Loves to accumulate the footy, and when he can make an impact on the scoreboard, it is usually at the right time. Influential player. For number 9 now, geez, tricky one here. You've got Paddy Cripps, Lachie Neale, Butters, Steele. But for me, it's just got to be Lachie Neale. It's a really tough selection, this one, but if we're saying overall, Neale could still take the cake. I think Butters was probably the best player out of all these 4 plays here this year, but I still feel like Neale did win the Brownlow medal this year, so you've got to give him some sort of recognition. So that means you've probably got to scale it a bit to who's the best player overall, because it's very close, and Neale's a 2-time Brownlow medalist and he's just been a fine player his whole career. Again, was a very good stoppage player in 2023, and even players and peers say that he is such a hard player to play on, so Lachie Neale takes the number 9 spot for 2023. For number 10 now, not really too many options, so it's got to be the absolute fine footballer of Scott Pendlebury. Really the only other player I was thinking and considering was Mitch Owens, but it's got to be Pendles with just his illustrious career, statistics, and taking home another premiership medallion in 2023. Was huge this year for the Pies. Just gets finer as he gets older. For number 11 now, I'm going to be going with one of the best ruckmen of the 21st century of Max Gawn. It's hard to go past a player like Gorney, Tuke Miller, McRae, Papley with the other considerations, but yeah, it's a pretty self-explanatory one. Gawn, and one of the best players in his position for quite some time. For number 12 now, I'm going to be going with the Adelaide skipper of Jordan Dawson, Tom Green, Max King, with a few other close selections, but Dawson really enjoyed his season. He's been great ever since he's come across to the Adelaide Crows. Moved moved into a full-time midfield role this year and had a solid season, picking up also his maiden All-Australian blazer. For number 13 now, I'm going to be going with Clayton Oliver. Disappointing season he had with injury, and geez, he's just been at the top of a lot of news, press releases as of late with all the troubles off the field, but still, talent-wise, he's one of the best players in the competition. Walker, yeah, had a better 2023, of course, than Clary because he did get an All-Australian selection, but Oliver, I still think, is just one of the best inside midfielders in the AFL. For number 14 now, it's a tough selection here for the number 14 Guernsey. We've got Bedford, but the big two are Mills and Taranto. Taranto did have a better 2023, that definitely is safe to say, but I still feel like I'm going to be giving this one to Callum Mills just because I think overall he's slightly the better player, and I don't think Taranto's year justifies to put him over Mills because he didn't end up actually making the All-Australian 40 squad, so I think Mills just takes the cake because I think head-to-head Mills is just a more of that finer player that's able to work really hard and go by foot much better than a player like Taranto. But Taranto's still solid, but I think Mills is just the better player. For number 15 now, I'm going to be going with Sam Taylor. Absolutely love watching this player. Just such a menace in the air. Really good one-on-one and so competitive. For number 16, tricky selection here because it's just, you don't know who to select because you've got 𝐓𝐿, Reinhart and Ollie Wines for the three selections. I don't know if Reinhart justifies a spot. 𝐓𝐿 was great last year, but stagnated a bit this year, so I'm just going to be going with the Brownlow medalist of Ollie Wines. Has been disappointing the last two seasons, but still, numbers-wise, he did make somewhat of an impact for Port Adelaide this year. For number 17, love watching this player, Daniel Rioli for the Richmond Tigers. He's been great the last season or so now for Richmond at that new half-back flank sort of role. Loves to inject his pace and take the game on. For number 18 now, we've got a fine selection of some young players here for the number 18 Guernsey, but it's got to be Sam Walsh. Last two seasons, disappointing because he hasn't been able to be 100% with his body, but now he's entering a full preseason most likely, so hopefully he can get back to his 2021 best. For number 19 now, got to be going with Rowan Marshall. I guess in a way, unlucky not to take home the All-Australian ruckman spot, but deservedly did go to English, but had a huge second half of the year for the Sainers, and was also able to make a big impact forward of centre. For number 20 now, going to be going with Connor Rozee. The newly appointed Port Adelaide captain signed a massive 8-year deal, but just such a consistent and professional footballer at such a young age. Able to make an impact, especially in that midfield, work hard, earn some marks, and also kick some lovely goals too. For number 21, going to be going with Errol Goulden here. 𝐼𝐻𝐪 and Tom Liberatore were also close considerations, but Goulden's breakout season was like nothing else. It was just an absolutely sensational year to watch from the star wingman. For Guernsey, number 22 now, going to be going with the fine midfielder from the GWS Giants of Josh Kelly. He was huge. I thought he was just such an underrated player for GWS this year. He was able to make a more consistent impact for the Giants this year, and I think his experience and his poise really helped the Giants move to new heights, really, in 2023, being oh so close of going in towards a grand final. For 23 now, this is tough. You got Buddy, you got Wiedering, you got Charlie Cameron. But if we're picking the best current player, it's got to be Charlie Cameron. He's the best small forward, I think, in the competition. Wiedering's a solid footballer. Best player overall's, of course, got to be Buddy. But current play, it just has to be Charlie Cameron. And you never want to give this guy an inch of space. For 24 now, I'm actually going to be going with the young gun Freo forward here of JMS. Nick Newman, Dane Rampey, some close considerations. Newman had a solid year for the Blues, it has to be said. But JMS kicked over 40 goals for Fremantle this year, the second year play. I thought it was really impressive to see and loved watching his season, so it's got to be going to him for the number 24 spot. For Guernsey, number 25, I'm going to be going with one of the more underappreciated and consistent players of the Collingwood Football Club of Jack Crisp. Stringer, when he's on, he can be very damaging. And Shannon Hurn, I also wanted to include in the honourable mentions. Thought he was a very fine footballer for his whole career. But Crisp, yeah, just as I say, really underrated player. Great by foot. And yeah, it was great to see him play some great footy again in 2023. For 26 now, I'm going to be selecting the fine forward from the Geelong Cats of Tom Hawkins. His body is now starting to slow down. It was evident from watching him this year, but still, he's just been such a brilliant footballer to watch across his whole career and takes out the spot slightly ahead of Luke Parker and ahead of Hayden Young. For 27 now, going to be going with the big red dog, Mason Redman. I really loved watching this guy's season. He had a huge first half of the year. Loves to take the game on, move forward and kick some big bombs, of course, from 50 out. We all know that. But he's also a fine interceptor. That's what I also love about him. And there was a few close considerations, have him slightly ahead of Himmelberg, Justin McInerney and Jack Darling as the best current player in the number 27 spot. For Guernsey, number 28, going to be picking the Gold Coast ruckman of Jared Witts. Got him ahead of Nathan Murphy, so not really much competition there. The captain for the Suns, and yeah, it's great to see him being fully fit after recovering from that ACL injury 2 years ago, I think it is now. For Guernsey, number 29, close selections here. Rory Laird, Shea Bolton, Cameron Guthrie, but it's got to be going with the most impactful player in his position of Shea Bolton. Look, there's mixed opinions with him. People say he's underrated. People say he's terribly overrated. I understand that. I just still think he's a superstar, clean player at ground level. As I say again, very impactful in his position and can always make the ball talk. And also, he can be a menace in stoppages. That's where I think he's very good, and he's a hard player to tackle as well. He can really change a game. So Shea Bolton for number 29. For number 30 now, I'm going to be going with the best key forward of 2023 of Charlie Curnow. Got him ahead of Darcy Moore and Tom Atkins, but yeah, this one is a pretty, a no-brainer really. Curnow, best key forward of 2023. For number 31 now, I'm going to be going with Harris Andrews. I still think personally this guy is absolutely robbed of an All-Australian Guernsey this year. He was huge for Brisbane, just controls the game. I just love how he plays. He plays that sort of lazy-ish style, but just a really calm player in heavy traffic and marks the ball and reads the drop zone very well as a key defender. For number 32 now, Tom Sparrow, Mason Wood, Kieran Briggs. This one's really up in the balance, but I'm going to be going with the player who had the most exciting breakout season, I think, out of any player in 2023. It's got to go to Big Briggsy, the ruckman from the GWS Giants. Wow, what a second half of the season he had. And as a fantasy and Supercoach enthusiast, he was a fun player to watch as he just racked up the points. But yeah, just a really aggressive ruckman that's able to win it really well and grab it out of the ruck and just gain some marks. He's a big player and is also able to make sometimes an impact on the scoreboard too. Loved watching his season. For number 33 now, going to be going with Zach Bailey from the Brisbane Lions. Aaron Norton was a very close consideration, same with Jack Ginnivan, but Zach Bailey, yeah, he can show inconsistencies, but I just think he's still a really fine player, and he had a really good finals series, so yeah, his impact is second to none when he is up and about. For number 34, literally there was only really one selection to put in this video. It's got to be Ben King. There was no one really else to select, so Ben King it is. Let's hope he can form a really good partnership potentially with Jed Walter heading into next year. For number 35, I think a lot of Collingwood fans know who this will be. It's got to be Nick Daicos. But if you look at the honourable mentions, there is one player, Patrick Dangerfield. As I say again, the best overall player, of course, Paddy Dangerfield. But let's remember this video is picking the best current player, so it's definitely got to be Nick Daicos every day of the week. I think we're looking at just a generational talent here, and geez, what happens if he wasn't injured? I think he could have the Brownlow medal around his neck if he never went down with that injury, and also Jack Sinclair was another consideration too. But yeah, it's got to be Nick Daicos as the best current player in the number 35. For 36 now, I'm going to be going with the live wire small forward of 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐎𝐥𝐝, also able to make an impact in the midfield as well for the Melbourne Demons. Got him ahead of Brennan Cox and Ollie Henry. Yeah, can be a little bit inconsistent when producing shots at goal, but still, his pressure he provides, and he's just able to really change a game with when he is up and about. So yeah, got to be going with him for number 36. 37 now. This one's a little bit of a tricky one, but I've decided to go with Tom Barrass ahead of Nick Martin and Starcevic. For me, it was head-to-head with Nick Martin, especially. I thought his year was great across the wing for Essendon, but still think the last two seasons and overall, Tom Barrass has been overall pretty solid key defender for the West Coast Eagles, so I've selected him. And he has also won a best and fairest if we are comparing the two players where Martin has not. For number 38, no other honourable mentions here. There is really only one selection to consider, and it is Jeremy Howe, an exciting player for the Pies. Had his injury problems this year, but did get back out on the park when it mattered and took home the premiership with the Pies. Great to see. Number 39, going to be going with a player I loved watching for GWS this year. I thought he was such a vital player for their success in 2023. Connor Idun, had a massive breakout season. Numbers-wise, he actually had a better season statistically than 𝐼𝐴𝐴𝐶 𝐞𝐬. There's a little bit of food for thought. Very, very good player one-on-one. Loved watching his season. Also, Paddy McCartan and Sam Switkowski, the other considerations. Moving on now into the 40s, and the selections start to get a little bit slim here. For number 40, I'm going to be going with Jack Payne. Have him ahead of Ash Johnson, but yeah, Payne had some really good games. Some underappreciated and under the radar sort of performances for the Brisbane Lions this year. And with that athletic background, he was really able to show his strengths in the marking contest throughout this season for the Brisbane Lions. For Guernsey number 41 now, it's got to be Brodie Mihocek from the Collingwood Football Club. Did also consider Jug McVee. Thought he had a solid year for the Melbourne Demons, the young defender. But yeah, it's easily got to be Mihocek. Had some great games across the span of the season for the Pies, and geez, he's just been such an underrated player his whole career. For 42 now, no other selections here apart from Adam Sard, so a pretty easy one there. All Australian last year, and just a really important player in the back half for how they moved the footy for the Blues, Adam Sard. For 43 now, another obvious selection here of Riley O'Brien. McDonald, Tip and Woody was another consideration, but yeah, this is a pretty obvious one as O'Brien plays consistent footy in 2023. And now we move on to number 44, and this one's a really interesting one here. We've got a few quality plays here. Callum Wilkie, Tim English, Tom Stewart, Jake Lloyd. 3 out of those 4 players made the All-Australian this year, but if we are wanting to really fine margin it down, it does have to come down to career success, and it's hard to go past Tom Stewart. It's an obvious one, really. One of the best, I think, that plays in his position in the 21st century. He's just been an absolute entertaining player to watch, and just how he reads the play, his intercepting skills has just been remarkable his whole career, so it's got to be Tom Stewart for the number 44 spot. For number 45, we've got another Geelong play here of Brad Close. Did also consider Tyler Young. I thought he actually had a really underrated year for the Tigers, and also Josh Carmichael. He was able to make some impact for Collingwood last year, but it's got to be going with Brad Close. He's always a bit of an underrated player, I think, for Geelong when he's able to bob up with a goal or two, the small forward. 46, another Geelong play here. Geez, there's a few Cats plays here. We are going to be going with Mark Blicavs, the ruckman for the Cats. When you just look at his injury, when he went down, and look how Geelong went, they really struggled without him. That just goes to show what a key part he is towards the Cats. I think he's just been such an underrated player his whole career. All-Australian selection last year, multiple 40-man selections across his career. Yeah, just a terrific athlete as well in the ruck, of course, and versatile for Geelong as well. The big O, Mason Cox and Cottrell, also close selections for that number 46 spot. For number 47, going to be going with the revelation key forward for the St Kilda Football Club, Anthony Caminiti. The first year play, he booted, I think, around 18 or 19 goals in 17 games this year, so that's a really good return from a first year player. Jai Menzies and also Quinton Narkle, the other considerations. Number 48, there's actually only one player who wears the number 48 on an AFL list, and that is Mark Keane, the Irishman from the Adelaide Crows, coming across from Collingwood, and he had a few games in the second half of 2023. For number 49 now, going to be going with this, I think, forgotten footballer, young talent for the West Coast Eagles, Jai Culley. Keen to see what he offers next year, recovering from that ACL injury, the number 1 pick from the 2022 mid-season draft. And for number 50, here we are, final number. And there is only 2 players in the competition with number 50, and that is Ben Brown and Marlon Pickett, both premiership players, but it has to be Ben Brown just because of his career success. But at the moment, he's just not really in his career best form at all, or should I say the past few seasons now. But yeah, it's got to be Ben Brown because of his success at North Melbourne. So Ben Brown in the number 50 spot, and that completes the list. So everyone, there is the best AFL player at every Guernsey number for 2023. These are videos I always like to do each year in the off season, so I wanted to do this video again in 2023. Hopefully you did enjoy. Feel free to comment down below and let me know what you did think of the players. I do want to include the honourable mentions to give it a bit of context, so maybe would you have disagreed, or would you have chosen a different player for a particular Guernsey number? Love to hear your people's opinions down below in the comments. It's been an awesome year on the channel, fellas. Stay tuned for next week. Probably going to be doing a best of 2023 of all my stream reactions, so yeah, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you did go on to enjoy, and until next time, I will talk to you later. See you later, fellas.